Well, good Wednesday morning. It's been a while since I've done a video, and I've tried 4 times already this morning, so hopefully this is the one that will actually work. I wanted to take just a few moments to introduce the book of Ezekiel to you. All the information I'm sharing with you is in your leader's guide, so you can go back and reference it there. Just uh, thought I would just share a few thoughts of my own as we're going forward. So, the first thing I want to do is read the very first verse in the first chapter of Ezekiel. I think it gives us some amazing context. It says, in the 13th year, in the 4th month, on the 5th day, while I was among the exiles by the Kabar River, the heavens were opened, and I saw visions of God. There's 3 things I want us to notice here real fast. One is how detailed Ezekiel is in his writing. And that will be something that we'll notice throughout the entire book. Very, very detailed oriented. For those who enjoy that kind of stuff, this is the book for you. Secondly, that Ezekiel was serving in exile with the people. He wasn't separated from them or speaking to them from a mountainside all the way down saying, hey, this is what God has to say. He was in the midst of this exile in Babylon with his people as well. I think oftentimes we forget that God actually has us exactly where he wants us so that we can minister to those around us. In your workplaces, in your schools, in your homes, wherever. God has you where he wants you to be so that he can speak through you to those around you. And then the third thing is that in the midst of exile, you are doing exactly what God is wanting you to do, or whatever you're going through, whatever trials, whatever tribulations, that if you're faithful to God, you will be able to look up and see him because he is there. That's what happened to Ezekiel. He was, boom, right in the presence of God on a very specific day at a very specific time while he was serving amongst the people. And that should be encouraging to us all. So Daniel and Ezekiel are serving not at the same time, but they are somewhat contemporaries. They were overlapped a little bit. And there's some commonalities between them. And I'm going to take a moment and we're going to switch to my PowerPoint here, and we're going to show you just a few slides. So both Daniel and Ezekiel were exiled in Babylon. We read that Daniel was in the first part or the first wave of Jewish citizens who were brought over. Ezekiel was in the second wave. Both Ezekiel and Daniel were young, relatively, when they went into ministry. Daniel in his teenage years and Ezekiel in his 30s. Both had long ministries in the areas where they were serving. Indicates that Daniel was around 70 or so years and Ezekiel around 22 to 30 years. So let's take a moment just to look specifically at Ezekiel. Who is the author? Who wrote this book? Well, the author is in the name, Ezekiel. And as we mentioned a little bit earlier, it is one of the most chronologically documented biblical books. So for those detailed orientated folks in your class, they're going to love reading through and diving into this scripture. And his cohesiveness all the way through also is another indicator that he was the particular author. And if you have questions about that, I could be happy to answer those in a little more detail later. Who was the original audience? Well, in both cases, but specifically Ezekiel, he was addressing those who were in exile right around him, right where he was talking to them. But many others still lived in Judah, so he was addressing not only those in exile, he was addressing those in Judah as well. Why did he write this? What was the occasion of the writing? Well, for Ezekiel, he prophesied to the people who were unwilling to listen and encouraged them to turn back to God. In fact, while they were in exile themselves, they were still turning against God. They didn't want to obey. They rebelled against the judgment that was coming against them. And he warned them about those attitudes. They began to feel apathetic towards God and his ability to redeem them. They became hopeless. And all this was because of their own decisions to turn against him. But he also spoke of the amazing day, the exciting, the spectacular day when God would come and redeem his people again. And of course, that happened in their time frame, but it also is what's going to happen at the end. So just a brief outline, and again, all this information is in your book. God's judgment on his people, the first part, God's judgment on the nations. So he's judging those who he used to judge his people. And then the restoration of his people towards the end. And in these verses, there's some beautiful literature there as he is describing and exhorting praise towards the restoration of his people. So I hope the authors get into that information as well. So as I've written in the notes to this video, please remember those who are not part of your class that are serving in youth, serving in the nursery, serving with children, and those areas as you plan your festivities for the holidays, which I hope everybody's planning to do something, whether it's off campus or even on campus on a Sunday morning. Beware that of the Sunday that we're celebrating Christmas here in our church, there will be no Sunday school on that day. That date I don't have right off the top of my head, but we'll get that out to you soon. It's the Sunday before actual Christmas time. So anyway, love you guys, been praying for you guys, so proud of you and your faithfulness and what you're doing. And I pray that God gives you an amazing day today. So ciao for now.